Beginning with the end in mind, we're going to be making these printed poinsettias. You have a choice of how you'd like to complete it. But let's start out getting started with a big piece of paper. Place on there, trace around a large circle, a medium circle, a small circle. And then on those circles, I want you to go ahead and make some big petals extending to the edge of that circle. It's okay if some of your petals go on the outside of that circle. That's going to be fine. But that's just the plan, is go ahead and take those circles and draw some petals inside them. That just gives you an idea about how big to be making the edges of your poinsettia flower. This one I made a mistake. I thought to myself, I don't want my petals to be itty bitty small and have so many. I just wanted to space it out a little bit. So I just erased that and tried again. Don't worry about making your petals perfect. Just go ahead and get some petals on there, and you'll notice as I'm drawing, I'll start turning the paper around. That made it a little bit easier. And then as you can see, some of those petals do extend out on the outside of the circle. So any way that you want to make your circle or your petals, don't worry about them being perfect by any means. Just go ahead and get some petals put onto a piece of paper. We're going to be layering these and overlapping them, so I'm not really concerned about having the perfect petals. And so now, after I've done all my petals, I'm cutting them out. All right, now that I have my three leaf shapes ready for my poinsettias, now I'm going to go ahead and start printing with my paint. You'll notice that my sponge has got some green paint on it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and tap, tap, tap that onto my poinsettia leaves. As you're doing that, go ahead and add another color to it so that it's not just a solid green, but you're getting some variety of green. So I've added a little bit of yellow, you might be able to tell. Some yellow pieces so my yellows and greens can start mixing so it's not just a solid color green. Love the way that the sponge makes it look like it has a texture and it's not such a solid paint color, but it gives it a little bit of texture onto the paper. I'm going to do the same thing with my red. I've done some red paint, tiny bit of yellow, not a ton, but it just again gives it not only variety of texture but a variety of color too. Again, set that aside to dry. Do the same thing for your smallest poinsettia leaves. So my smallest, I'm going to do the same thing, grabbing some red, a little bit more yellow because I want a variety between both of the different colors of my reds so that it's not just the same color with the same color on it. I just wanted a little bit more yellow onto mine. You can do this with pink or any other color that I have available for your poinsettia leaves. Go ahead and take a moment, let this dry. Lastly, now that this is dry, we're going to go ahead and start putting some oil pastel work out onto our leaves of our poinsettias. So I just grabbed a black oil pastel and I started adding on some designs that make it look like a petal. I'm going to do the same thing to my orange and my red, making these look, instead of just like blank shapes, giving a little bit more interest, a little bit more design into my project. Love the way this looks. Okay, have fun. Great, now that I have all three of my different poinsettia leaves, I'm gluing them together, setting them aside. I've grabbed some yellow circles and adding a little bit of design for the centers or the middle of my poinsettia flower. Just a little oil pastel design, just like this. And then I'm going to glue those down onto the center of my poinsettia flower. Love the way this texture project turned out. Love the way that looks. Now for your finishing touches of your project, I'm going to give you some choices because I wasn't quite sure. I thought, well, this looks nice by itself, but what am I going to do for my background? So on a piece of black paper, I took some oil pastels and made some designs with some snowflakes and some cool colors. Or choice number two is I took a piece of construction paper, folded it in half, drew out half of a vase, and then I went ahead and I cut that vase out. I thought you could make it look like a planted poinsettia project as well. I added on some designs with oil pastel, placed it onto my black construction paper, And again, I loved the way that looked. So you have a couple different choices of how you want to do this project. Here's my vase project completed. Or choice number 2, my oil pastel background, a snowy, blurry blizzard. Whichever way you do, have fun. Make it yours.